And good Tuesday evening. Yes, I did write it down. It is October 4th, continuing our conversations with the candidates, and we are sticking with Newport School Committee. One of the things somebody had just messaged me, but I will make a better, I realize that sometimes I take the info I know for granted, but I will make it known more during the interviews when somebody is an incumbent and somebody is running for the first time. I thought that might have been given a little bit, but I will make it known in interviews. This person is a newcomer, at least to running for nonpartisan school committee in Newport. And she is on your ballot, which you can see at vote.ri.gov. She is at the 8th spot, so 8 out of 8. You are going to be voting for up to 7 for Newport School Committee. So 7 out of the 8 will get on. And she is Kendra Wilson Muenter, and she joins us now. And how are you?
I'm good, thanks. How are you? I like to say 8 is great. So just remember number 8.
I was going to ask you if you had a little tagline.
Vote 8 on November 8th. Oh, sure. I have a whole bunch.
Wow, that is good. And it was a random drawing by Newport Canvassing Authority, and that's just where you ended up. That has nothing to do with you being anything. Newcomer names.
It's the luck of the draw.
Luck of the draw. It's exciting to talk to people for the first time because I get to learn so much and hear so much. And I love when new people come along for races. And I hope people get to know more about you and why you're doing what you're doing. So why don't we kick it off with, who you are?
Sure. Who am I? I feel like I have the quintessential Newport story for someone who wasn't born here.
Oh, boy.
My best friend from home, I was born in Pennsylvania. I went to school in Pennsylvania. My best friend from home was going to Salve. I came to visit, and I'm still here, and she's gone. I've been here now for 30 years, so I clearly fell in love with Newport. I wanted to make this my home. I wanted to raise my family here, which I've done. I have a wonderful husband, a lovely daughter who's an 8th grader at Thompson. I work in the sailing industry. I've worked for J-Boats. I've been there for 26 years. And I feel like I'm kind of the typical Newport story for somebody who wasn't born and raised here. I came, visited, saw, loved it, and here I am.
Yeah, it does sound like it would be the Newport story if you were making a Netflix documentary about it.
Yeah, exactly.
So the big question is why? What made you in June or before June decide that you were going to declare your candidacy at the end of June? Why is now the time that you said, I need to run for Newport School Committee?
Sure. Well, one of the reasons I've been thinking about it for a couple of years, but I needed my daughter to get a little bit older. She's an 8th grader, so she's 13. She's a little bit more independent where I feel like I can not be driven by so much her schedule. So I have a little bit more free time in my schedule so I can do something like this. I feel like it's also a natural progression to my Newport public school story. We started in Pell in 2014. I joined the PTO in 2015. I took over as the PTO president in 2015, 2016, 2017, 2018, 2019. We moved to Thompson. I took over as the president of the PTO at Thompson. I've been at Thompson since running the PTO. In 2018, the call went out for parents to join the school building committee. So I joined the school building committee to work on the Pell expansion and the Rogers new build. So I've been doing that since 2018. And it just seemed kind of like the next natural progression in my life of Newport Public Schools.
And it's funny because, with all the names I see, I'm like, all right, I've seen this name 100 times. Why, where? And now it makes sense.
I'm usually probably begging for money for the PTO or begging for something or quoted about the school building committee or, a million other things.
How has the experience been over the last 3 full months?
It's been fun. It's been great. I love getting out. I'm an extrovert, so I love talking to people. I have no problem talking to people. I love meeting new people. I feel like I want to make friends with everybody in the world. So I, much to my daughter's chagrin, I will talk to the people in the grocery store. I will talk to the people on the street. I offer my help anywhere I can. So I feel like I'm in my wheelhouse. This is my element.
What are you hearing from people?
Oh, a little bit of everything. It depends on who I talk to. I mean, I hear people who want to know more what's going on in our schools. I hear from people who are in our schools and just, are frustrated that, all the amazing things our schools do don't get out there. I hear from people who just are not sure what's happening with the Rogers build. And so I kind of hear a little bit of everything.
All your experience in Newport Public Schools, do you have a favorite memory?
Oh, I do. I have a couple favorite memories. One of my favorite memories was our very first school dance we did at Pell, which was my daughter was in kindergarten, and it was the first time we've ever tried something, and we were not prepared for the entirety of the school to show up. I mean, it was a great night, but we were definitely overwhelmed by almost 900 plus kids and families showing up in the school in a 2-hour. I mean, it was chaos. We had it in the spring. We were in the gym. We were on the playground. We were in the field. We were just everywhere.
It's probably a good time to remind people. I've done it in other interviews on that there's boards and commissions available where people can get involved and volunteer. But I'm sure PTO would take more volunteers and more parents involved.
Always. Yes, always.
What do you see as some of your biggest priorities if you were to be elected, or some of school committee's biggest priorities if you were to join them?
I want to really focus on communication. It kind of goes back to, I feel like we need to work on communication in our schools to our families, and also communication out to the general public. We're definitely getting better, but I think there's always room for improvement. And I think it's because I look to it from the business side. I know how we effectively communicate with our clients and our dealers and our owners. And I just feel like we're so close. We just need to get that little bit extra of how to really communicate to all of Newport of what exactly goes on in our schools.
Yeah, and we have the superintendent on the last Wednesday of every month. Colleen Burns-Germain joins us at 1:30 for a half hour.
Yep.
I'm going to commit because you are the third or fourth candidate who has brought that up, and I agree that we need to celebrate more about what's happening in Newport Public Schools. We need to not only celebrate, but also, I'm a fan of more information is the better.
Yes.
And
yes.
I'm going to commit to seeing what I can do to work with Marson and Newport Public Schools and school committee to help. Maybe we can do a column, or maybe we can do something.
I would rather have somebody complain that I'm giving them too much information than have people sitting in the dark and just being like, I have no idea what's happening.
Yeah, I deal with that every day. Creating content is how much is too much, but everybody finds something different valuable, and everybody needs something digestible in a different way.
Yeah. And I think we also have to look with a critical eye. It can't just be all rainbows and sunshine. We also have to acknowledge that we have some issues, and we're going to address them. And here's how the community can also help in helping in addressing our issues and help work as, we like to say community partners, and we do have great community partners. And we should also celebrate all the people who help make our schools what they are.
Absolutely. You mentioned communication. Were there any others priorities?
Well, I haven't been on yet, so I don't really know where all I can jump in on any of the subcommittees. I would definitely be interested in the Health and Wellness Committee. I just being in my daughter's schools, there's always a few things I feel like we can look at and tweak and look at with a more critical eye and see how we can streamline processes or make things better. So I really am interested if I am so chosen to see what subcommittees I can jump on. I know health and wellness is definitely a priority for me, though.
What unique experience do you think you bring?
One, I'm a parent, and I know we have one other parent, and I'm really dialed into what's happening in the schools. I try to really reach out to all my friends who are parents in Pell and in Rogers and in Thompson to see what experiences we're having, to see where we can better, see what we can change, see how we can tweak things to make them work a little better. I also think my business background gives me a little insight. I know we can't run a school like a business, but we can certainly look at it with a critical business eye and see how we can make some changes and some tweaks and see what we can do to really elevate the experience daily. And I also think just, being a homeowner and a taxpayer, schools are a huge deal for your town. Like, we need to have good schools if we want to retain families and if we want to attract new families. And I really want to work on seeing what we can do to keep the families we have and bring more families.
What's a recent direction or decision that school committee has made recently that you thought was done well? What is something school committee has done well over the last couple of years?
I think this school committee has done really well at working with the city council and the budget. They've done a really good job at trying to get ahead of the budget, trying to make sure there's no surprises, trying to really have a balanced budget all the time, working within their confines, and having a good working relationship with the city council and the city manager.
Not done well? Opportunities?
Celebrating all of our students. I feel like sometimes we forget all the programs that are happening in the school. And I think we focus, like every school, we focus heavily on celebrating our athletes. And I think we need to lift up all the children. I think we should celebrate what the NACTech kids are doing. I think we should look at, everything, all the programs, and celebrate the kids. I think we should celebrate from kindergarten on up. I would like to see more joy and celebrating of all of our students, because everyone brings a unique item something unique to our schools.
How do you think, and this is an interesting one because you're the first parent that I've interviewed this time around so far. How do you think the community, the people who don't have kids in the system or haven't gone through, how can the community best support Newport Public Schools? And why is it important?
Well, it's important. Well, how can they best support us? They can support us by really encouraging the city council to fund the schools, because we need the money to keep the schools going. If we have good schools, you have family retention. All we hear is that families want to stay in Newport. Families want to come to Newport. We need to have a really good schools and really good programs for the kids to come to. And I think they can support by staying on top of the city council, but I also think they should look at what opportunities we have. I mean, there's a lot of schools around the country that have let grandparents come in, or have older retirees that come in and they read out loud, or they mentor the students, or they work in a tutoring. It'd be great to just get more community members into the schools so that they can kind of pick up some of the slack, but we also are having shortages in our schools nationwide, and we're going to need help.
They say it takes a village, and
it certainly takes a village,
especially with children and school and education. Yep. Everybody in the community, whether you had kids there, have kids there, plan to have kids there, you could play an important role.
Yep.
We have made it more than 10 minutes without anybody mentioning school regionalization, which may be a first.
I know. I thought you'd get to it right off the bat.
Well, I like to try to put it in the middle like a sandwich, so it doesn't absolutely consume, because I want people to get to know you and why you're doing this. For those that haven't heard, question 5 will on the ballot for Newport will authorize the establishment of a regional school district. I'm sure with all of the roles that you just mentioned, PTO and being a parent, you have a daughter heading off to Rogers here in a couple of years.
Yep.
Where do you fall on the regional school district conversation question?
So I am going to leave no doubt in anyone's mind. I am a no. And I am a no for several reasons. And I am happy to expand on those reasons if you would like.
Yeah, please do.
So the funny thing is, I'm actually not opposed to regionalization, but we're not getting regionalization. In my talking to people in the community, when we do talk about regionalization, I am amazed by how many people think that this regionalization is going to unify the high school. It is not. This is strictly the unification of the central office. So it would be Newport Central Office and Middletown Central Office. What your central office is your superintendent, your assistant superintendent, your director of facilities, your special ed director, your EL director. It's going to unify that. I don't see the savings they're promising us, because we've pretty much running a lean ship in both towns. Neither Newport nor Middletown currently have assistant superintendents. Newport has an EL director. Middletown does not have an EL director. They pay our EL director to come and help them. Newport has a director of facilities. Middletown does not have a director of facilities. We have our director of facilities, our IT director, and our NACTEC director is all the same person. So, we're running lean ships. I don't know where else we're cutting. I mean, I can see we're cutting probably one superintendent. I don't see where else we're cutting. Maybe some administrative office staff, but even then I'm not sure. So I don't see the big, huge salaries that we're told we're cutting that we're going to cut. I also am really concerned with how the whole process has played out. It was done in executive session behind closed doors. The first time anyone heard of it and got a chance to hear it was when the legislation was read in the city council chambers, which I believe was the end of May or early June. I cannot remember exactly which date, but that was the time frame. And then we've had a few workshops, and now we're being asked to vote. I mean, I often tell people we've talked more as a city about food trucks than we've had meetings about the regionalization. And this is tying two towns together in schools districts. It's tying our finances together for the schools. It's tying our school committee together. And we have no educational plan. We haven't even done a basic visioning session to see if Newport and Middletown have the same goals in terms of education. So I really would like to put the brakes on. I would like to do a 12-month study which is what Article 16 would have done if it was in play. And I also have not had a really good reason why Article 16 was set aside. Article 16, for those who don't know, is the General Assembly language on how to look at a regionalized school district. And that lays out all the questions of the educational opportunities. And I've heard multiple reasons from multiple people. It depends on who you talk to on why we're not following Article 16. And I think that would actually give the confidence to the voters to make an informed decision if we did a true regionalization study to see if both districts are on the same page, to see if we can really bring in the educational opportunities for our children, and to see if we will really save the money for the taxpayers. Because I also don't know if we're saving money, because I don't see where the savings are coming from. So that's just a little bit of my reasons why.
Yeah.
I mean, I can expand more if you'd like.
Yeah, and I might ask you to in a couple different ways here. I'm trying not to get either one of us in trouble here.
Yeah.
When I ask this question.
Why would I start now?
Yeah. So it's on the ballot because the majority of Newport City Council moved it up to the General Assembly to put it on the ballot.
Yes.
So majority is 4 people.
Correct.
So that's why it's on there. The language concerns me. I believe, unfortunately, that the majority of people aren't paying attention as close as you and I are.
Yes, 100%.
And when they see the question, authorize the establishment of a regional school district, and a bunch of legalese after, I do think that people are going to think that means a true regionalized school district.
Oh, they 100% do, because when I run into people and I talk to people, they think it's going to be one high school. Yeah, I've had people say, "Oh my gosh, this is great. We're finally getting the one high school." And I say, "Oh, no, we're not. We're not getting the one high school. Yeah. We're getting our Rogers, but Middletown will have their own. They will have their own. They will keep everything separate."
And do you think if we had to pinpoint it to one thing, that we are here because of money?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. We're here because unfortunately Middletown cannot afford their project without us. And I think we're here because and listen, don't get me wrong, extra money is fantastic. But I'm also not sold on the fact that 67% isn't also great. I mean, RIDE's not going away. I've also heard the narrative that, this is our one-time deal. I'm like, no, RIDE will be back at the table on November 9th if this fails. The 80% might be gone, but 67% is still a good amount of money, considering 2 years ago, 78% of the voters in Newport were fine with up to 52.5% reimbursement. So anything we could get over is gravy in my book. And yeah.
Yeah, not to confuse people even more, but there is also a statewide question, number two, which is Rhode Island school buildings, which is $250 million to provide funding for the construction, renovation, and rehabilitation of the state's public schools.
Yes.
And if that wasn't confusing enough, if you live in Middletown, you're going to have two questions.
Yes, correct.
So the two questions in Middletown have to pass, as well as question 5 in Newport.
Yes.
All three have to pass in order for this to move forward.
Yes. Any one no kills it in this iteration. It doesn't mean, again, we can't come back November 9th, regroup and say, okay, let's look at a study. Let's really do this the right way. Let's get all the questions answered that every constituent has and move forward.
And not to be such a homer for a couple minutes, but I'm trying to think of the students of Middletown and their needs. And how do we move? How does school committees? How does students move forward if this fails?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. That's a really good question. I don't know how they move forward. And I feel bad. I mean, I want every child to have the new school that we're going to have with Rogers, because it's going to be, I mean, a couple weeks ago, I was in the meeting where we were looking at carpet samples and tile, and it was colors, and it was amazing. And I could just envision what this new school is going to look like. And it's really exciting. And I do want that for every child. But I don't know how to fix it. And also, I don't know if it's my responsibility of the children of Newport. I don't know how to help them, because we gave them the opportunity in 2019 and they wanted nothing to do with us.
What do we do if it passes?
Then we have to buckle down and do the work. I mean, if it passes, I'm going to give my all, and I'm going to make sure our kids get the best educational opportunities they can get, and they're not left behind.
If there are cost savings,
yes,
which can obviously be argued, I think everybody could agree on at least that. Where do you think they should go?
Oh, back to the education programs. 100%. I mean, Newport's in a good place right now. We've finally been able to buy, because we have the ESSER funds and ARPA funds, we've been able to buy high quality curriculum, and it's key. I mean, I was at a school committee meeting the end of last school year, and one of the teachers who was piloting a new ELA thing was very excited because the one she piloted is aligned with the RICAS. So she's very excited that the kids will now have the opportunity that other kids in the higher performing districts have, because they've already been using this curriculum, that our kids will finally now be on the same curriculum and have the same opportunity to improve their RICAS, because it's the curriculum that aligns with the RICAS. So I think we need to keep investing in curriculum. We need to keep buying the best high quality curriculum we can have. And curriculum is not cheap. I mean, I don't think people are aware that when we say curriculum, it's hundreds of thousands of dollars to buy a district-wide curriculum.
Yeah, what amazes me is, compared to the 2020 election, where I think city council, as well as school committee, the race was about Rogers, and the expansion of Pell. In my eyes, kind of it was. You have 8 people for 7 seats, so it's not overabundance. But this race isn't about this project, because I overall, so far I've spoken to 4, so I have a majority. Pretty much.
Almost.
Overall, I could push every school committee member I've spoken to rejecting it easier than I could push them to approving it. I think that's the safest way to say it.
I mean, we've barely touched the surface. I could have probably 2 hours of your time just talking on this. Another concern I have is, and people kind of dismiss me, but I'm really concerned about segregation. It becomes the school district with them and ours. And it becomes, we throw in, again, if you read the legislation, the funding formula will be based on per pupil. So we will be paying slightly more because we have more children. It doesn't mean that we get back our portion. It means we're putting more in, and then it's getting divided between everything. So are we then going to have less funding coming to our schools? That's another question I'm concerned about. I'm also concerned about if this passes, the new district has the ability to take out bonds. When and if we have to deal with Thompson because we outgrow it, or because it just needs a new renovation, or we need to look somewhere to build it in 10, 12, 15 years, I don't know what the appetite for the Middletown voters, because the new district would have the bonding capabilities. They would take out a bond for anything that has to happen at Thompson, and then both Newport and Middletown would have to vote and approve it. So we would need a majority between Newport and Middletown. And I don't know what Middletown's appetite is going to be after taking out a $235 million bond for their 3 buildings to, help with Thompson. So I think it's a more question marks for Newport that I would really like to see answered before I run to the voting booth and, fill in my square.
I think I pictured it as, I think there are 3 buckets of people right now. The people who are, yes, they're going to see it as just give me the money. There's the people who need more info. And there's the people that no regionalization ever. Is that what you're hearing out there? You're closer to it than I am.
I am. I'm hearing the yes, because we will never see money like this again, which I kind of say, I'm not so sure about that. We have the I wish I knew more, because this is really confusing, and it is really confusing. I've read the legislation probably more times than I care to admit. Every time I read it, I find something new, which brings up more questions. And then we have the people that it doesn't matter. They want nothing to do with this, no matter what the plan is, no matter what the educational value is, no matter if we save money. They're just, nope, they're a no.
I don't think there's not, compared to last go around with schools, there's not campaigns promoting or pushing, big campaigns pushing or promoting. So I think what's going to happen is, what confuses me the most is people are going to get in there and they're just going to pick their selection of the day, whether it's approve or reject.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're right. Because, first, they have to remember to flip the ballot over.
Yeah, well, yes. Yes.
But I think we're going to get people who either don't answer it because they're confused, or just see that it's about schools and maybe approve it because they're not sure what it is, or just kind of eeny, meeny, miny, moe it, because it is. There's not a whole lot of information going out about it. And although I will say it seems the letter to the editors have picked up a little, more people are. I also feel like this is it's kind of like a weirder election cycle, where it's kind of 2 weeks tomorrow early voting starts, and 5 weeks today is election day, but it feels like everyone's just kind of moving in slow motion. I mean, sometimes myself, I'm like, oh my gosh, I need to get going here, like this is coming. And I feel like there's no sense of urgency like we had in 2020.
I agree with that. I agree with that. At least the question got before the charter amendments, so it doesn't completely bore everybody before you get to it.
Yeah. Which is another thing I haven't even looked at. So
yes, vote.ri.gov. Everybody can see the sample ballot. It's not a secret. It's not a surprise. Go on and see it. Find your polling place. Make sure you're registered. All of that good stuff. If people could walk away from this with one reason, I'll give you an option here, because I don't want to point you here. One reason to reject it, or one thing to think about when they vote on question 5, the regionalization.
So I would say one reason to reject it. Again, I can only speak for myself personally, but I'm not a gambler, and I'm certainly not going to gamble with our children. And I think until we have questions answered, it's really doing a disservice to the children of Newport to go ahead and approve this with no visioning session, no educational plan, no anything concrete besides the money. All we were told about was the money, the money, the money. I went to every workshop. I went to every meeting I could attend to, and all I heard were maybes, possiblies, and hypotheticals. I would like to have a little bit more. I'd like to have less maybes, possibilities, and hypotheticals, and more, this is what we envision for this new district. This is how we see the educational opportunities. This is the classes we think we can offer. And then this is how the classes are going to work. Because I'm having a hard time wrapping my brain around the fact that we could have up to 21 AP classes, yet we've 2 different schools, 2 different buildings. And when I asked the gentleman from Strategic Consultants, I think their name was, how would it work? He said, well, we could do Zoom. And I thought, no, Zoom was terrible. We already did a year of Zoom, and we know what happened to our children in Newport. Newport kids did not thrive on Zoom. So I was just like, no, I'm out.
Can you come up with a reason to support it?
No, I mean, not without, I mean, I could lie and be like the money, but I honestly don't know if the money's really there.
And that's fair. I just wanted to give you the option to answer that on the other end.
Yeah. I mean, listen, I will tell you one thing, and I'll tell the voters, you will know where you stand with me at all times.
Well, and my question was, my next question kind of goes along with that, and that might be your answer again. But people walk away from this. They watch all the different candidate interviews. What's one thing people should know about you? Why they should vote for you? Either somewhere between October 19th and November 8th.
I think, well, one, being a parent gives me a great asset. It makes me an asset. I'm involved in the schools. I'm in the schools. I'm probably in the schools at least, I wouldn't say weekly, but a couple times a month. And I am also dialed into what I'm hearing from all the children. I dialed into what I'm hearing from the parents. And I also have a lot of friends who are teachers. So I kind of feel like I've had the whole circle of what's going on in the schools. And, I just am like, I feel like we need some new blood. I always feel like, change is good.
Yeah.
New ideas bring, new people bring new ideas, and you look at things different ways.
This is, no offense to any incumbent, but I love when I see new names because I love new blood. And also hearing, change is good and new ideas are good. And,
I kind of also want to show parents that you can do it. Like, I feel like that's a big hurdle that parents who want to be more involved, they just don't think they can. They're worried about the time commitment. They're worried about, having meetings in the middle of the day. I work full time. My husband works full time. He actually has a job in Connecticut. I have a 13-year-old, and I kind of want to show, like, listen, if I can do it, other parents can do it. We need to get more parents involved. So I want to kind of be the trailblazer of the parents.
There you go. Hey, it's welcomed. Kendra, is there anything that I'm sure there is, but anything that we didn't get to that you wanted to bring up today?
Yes, I want to bring up, because I did watch some earlier interviews, and I do like your question of what's the biggest challenge.
Oh, yes. Sorry.
Yeah. That's okay, because I don't remember everyone's answers, but I do think that for what I see, our biggest challenge right now, and it's not unique to Newport, and I'm really, really concerned about it, is our teacher shortage. I mean, right now, we are still trying to hire for lunch aides and recess aides at Thompson. We're still looking for paras. My daughter currently doesn't have a math teacher. The teacher shortage is real, and it's affecting math and science harder than it is affecting ELA and social studies. And I'm really concerned of what's going to happen when our teachers start retiring and we don't have the pipeline of new teachers to fill these voids. And every position, whether it is the recess aide, the lunch aide, to a teacher, when they go unfilled, it affects the entire culture in the school. If we don't have the recess and lunch aides, the kids cannot go outside for recess. If we don't have a math teacher, your child's falling behind in math. If you don't have an ELA teacher, they're falling behind. I mean, the long-term subs are great, but we need full-time teachers to fill these positions. And it's a really big concern. We're seeing it just on a little tiny scale here in Newport, which I'm very grateful for. But it's tough out there, and it's going to get worse. And it's going to be a problem. And we got to figure out how to get teachers to Newport. And we also have to figure out how to keep teachers in Newport, because the teachers who I do know who are leaving, it's because they can't live in Newport and they're commuting in an hour, and they just get tired of the commute, and they can get a teaching job because schools all over Rhode Island and the country are so desperate for teachers. They can get a job close to home. They can get a job, blocks away from their house. So
we're going to follow up with that teacher shortage. We have asked the superintendent about it in our monthly interviews, but I'll make sure we follow up on that. The other question that I had, it'd be interesting, the biggest misunderstanding. What's something that you think people might misunderstand about Newport School Committee or Newport Public Schools?
I think for the school committee, I think they think the school committee runs the day-to-day schools. At the end of the day, the school committee is policy, budgets, and buildings. We write policy, we do up a budget that we present to the city council for approval, and we take care of the maintenance and carekeeping of the buildings. I think a lot of people think that we are in the weeds every day and we have say from everything to what they are ordering for lunch to who teachers are getting hired and who's getting what. We do not have that. Yes.
Yeah. I believe we already went over this one, but please correct me if I'm wrong. Maybe as a parent or as a candidate or as somebody that's been involved with PTO, something else you wish everybody knew.
Oh, how great our kids are. We have really awesome kids. All of our kids bring something unique and special to the table. And I think they get missed in test scores, and they get missed in being, our English language learners. Like, our kids are amazing. And when you go into the building and you talk to our kids, they're awesome.
Yeah. I opportunity to interact with the kids more would be something to discover and to look into.
Yes. Well, hopefully with COVID being over, quote unquote, we have more activities. So, band is back. In fact, the Thompson Middle School Band will be playing at the Broadway Street Fair. So if anyone wants to come and see what an awesome job Don Chilton does with the kids, they will be playing. And so I think that, there'll be more opportunities to get back into the schools and see exactly what's going on.
Excellent. And Broadway Street Fair is this Saturday. If people want to, October 8th, if people want to get over there, there's full day of music, lots of bands, 3 stages, maybe 4, lots of activities. Kendra, is there anything else that I may have missed or that you wanted to bring up?
I think we've covered everything.
If people want to get in touch with you or look you up on Facebook, email you.
I have everything. I have a Facebook page. I have a website. I have email. My email is simple. It's kwmunter@gmail.com. My website is Kendra's Newport School Committee.com. I have Facebook, Instagram. You can find me on all the social media channels you can find me on.
Excellent. Well, thank you for taking the time to chat with us.
Oh, the only thing I would add is don't forget to vote number 8 on November 8th.
Yes. And go check out your sample ballot, and you'll see Kendra there at number 8 under nonpartisan school committee, and 8 people for 7 seats. So it's not as many selections or choosing as much as some of the previous elections. And we wish you the very best of luck in the coming weeks.
Thank you. The only thing I would add is 21 years ago when I got married, and I thought, I'm going to keep my middle name, regret my last name, regretting it every day now. Every time I have to try to do something for the campaign, I'm like, just look for the person with the 3 names. So I would definitely rethink that next time. If I knew in 20 years I'd be running for a seat as the school committee, I would have done that differently.
That's okay. People will find you, I'm sure.
Yes.
So we wish you the very best of luck. Election starts in 2 weeks, pretty much.
2 weeks tomorrow, early voting.
Yes. Good luck, and we will chat with you soon.
Great. This was fun. I loved it.
All right. And that is Kendra Wilson Muenter, and she is number 8, nonpartisan school committee. She is a newcomer, not an incumbent. Somebody messaged me after the last one and said I need to make sure that I point that out. I assume that people knew who's on, and that's a bad assumption out of me. All right. If you missed any portion of this interview, you can find it on whatsupnoop.com. You can go back and rewatch it. You can share it. You can find the other candidate interviews. You can find our schedule of candidates all on whatsupnoop.com. Thanks for watching. We will be back tomorrow with a couple more.